Hey guys, this is Mr. Offer. This is part of that series I was telling you about, Mr. Offer Snooping Around in History. That's what I named it. And I've been snooping around with Mr. Bill O'Neill today. And Bill has given us some really good history lessons. Bill talked everything about the history of Carthage, history of Panola. Bill also has written several books, and we're going to talk a lot about a lot of the books that Bill has written. But there's a couple things. This is actually the second time I've interviewed Mr. O'Neill. And by the way, for my students that are watching this, you know, that big the dormitory, the Bill O'Neill dormitory, it's named after this guy. And I always tell Bill a joke with him. He's one of the usually in the military you have to die to have a building named after you, but Bill is still alive and well, and he's got several things that he is named after him, and he's pretty much a walking institution amongst Panola College. I mean, when I first got there, I had heard all about Bill O'Neill, and when he first walked in my office, I was amazed that I figured he'd be 7'10" and bulletproof. And but Bill has always been very helpful to me, and he's helped me with this series. A couple of quick things I wanted to ask Bill while we're sitting here. What advice? I always have students that want to be history majors. They want to become a history major. What advice would you give a student who wants to be a history major?
Well, of course, take every history course you can possibly find. Read. I've been reading history since I was about 6 years old. Children's history books,
Yep.
And then larger. And go to the places. You got to go there and feel the ghosts.
Okay.
You know, and I have done that. As I mentioned on one of the other things, I've been to all 50 states, to historical sites. I don't care anything about going to the beach or whatever. I want to go to the places where things happen, where I can feel the ghosts. And certainly as I write, I always do that. I always go wherever I'm writing because I need to get the feel of it. And when I was lecturing and would talk about a particular battle or something else, I had been there. I had seen it. I understood how it happened and developed. Thus, I could tell my students better. And then by the same token, if I were writing about it, I could tell my reading audience a lot better because I had and have been there everywhere.
Well, for the folks watching this, most of y'all know this, but Bill had taught. How many years did you teach at Panola College?
I guess 36 at Panola and 6 more elsewhere before I came to Panola.
Now Bill's reputation, and you know, people being a history professor there, people stop me all the time, and I usually have older people well, of course, I don't know, I'm gonna pick on the older people, but because I'm older now myself, but people would stop me all the time and go, you know, I had this guy that taught me at Panola College, and I can't remember his name, but man, he would dress up like an Indian or a Civil War soldier, and he wore these costumes all the time, and I'd say, you had Mr. Bill O'Neill. That's who the guy was, but he always wore these costumes. Tell me really quick about those costumes, because that's what you're noted. People around this area remember you wearing all those costumes.
I had my students, a major part of their grade in one semester would be to come up with something. It might be a presentation to the class. One time a guy made a bootlegger still.
Yeah.
And but girls would make uniforms. I have a colonial uniform, for example, flags, other kinds of uniforms and so forth. And I would have these things made. I've also purchased a great many artifacts such as old guns and old things like that. And the idea was to bring these things into class and show them there's a history of everything,
Yeah.
including clothes. And the girls loved it when I showed up in some kind of a colonial outfit. And I also brought lady outfits as well. And the girls would come in, and sometimes if some girl had flunked the test, I could get her to try that thing on, and she'd walk in there looking like $1,000,000.
Oh, really?
And, you know, the guys would perk up when I would bring old guns or tools or something. And the young ladies would perk up when I would bring items of clothing or other things. So, yeah, the whole thing was to try to make history come to life.
Well, you're well noted for that. People still
Well,
remember.
thank you.
I'm glad when you said about the women's clothing, you let the women wear it. I didn't know where you were
No,
going
no,
with that.
no.
But anyway, let's talk really quick. Bill has written, how many books have you written?
Right at 50 now.
Right at 50 books, and I know you're working on a book for Panola College.
Yes.
Now this is the the first book that Bill wrote on Panola College, and he's writing another one.
This
second
was
one.
the 50-year history.
Okay.
And Charles Hughes, who was
Okay.
the dean and then president for a time, he's the one who commissioned me to write this thing. You'll notice it's a hardcover in green Panola
Yep.
colors, and it is just a regular book. It's got lots of photos in it, but they are not particularly featured. They're just little black and white photos. And it was the kind of thing that I write all the time. And so I did that. And the interesting thing about that is I came to Panola prior to the halfway point of 50. I had been there 20 some odd years of the 50 years, almost 30 years at that point.
Wow.
And so consequently, it was a kind of a retelling of my life. And then I was also fortunate in that at that particular point, many of the founding fathers were still around and founding mothers. I was able to talk to all kinds of students, former administrators, retired teachers, and so forth who were in on the founding of the college, but who are no longer with us now that I'm working on the 75th history.
So tell us about this is the book that you're writing right now.
That's right. Dr. Powell came up with this idea. He wanted a 50th history, and he decided he wanted a coffee table book. There is now a company, unlike at this time, there's a company now that specializes in these kinds of things. A lot of them look like high school annuals. This one is an open up thing, and you can tell it has lots of color photos. It is very reader friendly. You don't have to slog through the through the text like you do that one. And so I've designed this book this way. It will be released in the year 2022, which is our 75th year. And I am finished with it now, but the reason for the early finish is because we have to turn the book over to the publisher. They have to have a year to come up with the finished product. And so we have this, and I designed my book like this, and it's ready. It's pretty much ready to go. We have all the 200 and some odd photos lined up, and I say I have been assisted by a number of people, such as Jessica Pace, librarian Christy Nutt at the college, but a key member of the team is one of the library staff members, Shay Joins. She has helped me with other of my books, and she has been on the team from day one with this. She is an accomplished techie, and she has helped me. And I worked up one of these for her as well. Okay. So she's had one of these the whole time, and we will turn in one of these to the publisher. And so it's going to be 75 years. What we called it, we had to have a snaky title. This was just Panola College, 1947 to 1997, the first half century. Duh. Okay, well, we had to come up with a little snakier title. And so what I call this one is 75 Years Along the Pony Trail, Panola College, 1947-2022. And that's the title of the book. And it will be ready in about a year and a half, I guess, be released to the public. We are going to have a year of celebration. 2022 will be a full year of celebration, various kinds of events for the 3/4 century anniversary of our college.
Something I want to mention is, a lot of the people now that work at Panola College, you taught.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you realize it, but Christy Nutt, I take it, that's Christy Ferguson.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And she was Christy Nutt before she was Christy
And by
Ferguson.
the way, her husband, Dwayne Ferguson, was one of my students as well.
And they have both told me that you taught them, along with a lot of other people, which I think is really cool. So let me ask you, and I don't know, we're probably running quickly out of time. If somebody, you've written a lot of books. If somebody, they always say that everybody's got a book in them. If there's somebody out there that wants to write a book, what's your quick advice to tell them for future authors out there to write books?
Oh, there are ways to organize these books, and as you say, everybody's got a book in them. And I have written a bunch of books that I wanted to read, and you've got an interested publisher in them. And I do this all the time. I was on the phone with somebody a couple of nights ago for 2 hours. They called me asking that same question you talked about.
Bill, I appreciate you. We're wrapping this up. And for all my students and all the other folks, I want to thank Bill O'Neill for his time. Thank you.
Pleasure, Bill.